guess, the panel, and I guess for everyone as well. And thanks for hitting the recording, Gareth. I should have introduced ourselves. I'll do that in a minute. So what I thought we'd do is maybe half this is just panel sessions, and we've got some questions for the panel. And the other half is just a wrap up for the iMoot, because this is the last session. And so just to share some information about how it's gone, and probably to get some feedback from everyone. So the panel session listed on the schedule was Gareth, who you can see, Merrin, who's sitting in Melbourne, and myself up here in Hong Kong. So what I thought we'd do, one of the things I've really been enjoying is actually hearing people's stories. And so what I really want to do is kind of interesting. We're three very different people, our way into Moodle and e-learning. And so what I really wanted Gareth, Merrin, and I guess myself to do was just to talk a bit about our story. And so first question I really want to ask, and I'll point this one over to Gareth first, is just asking, how did you get involved in e-learning? What's your story, your background into how you got here today? So if I ask you first, Gareth, and Merrin will follow up with you.
Okay, right, long story. Started off as a software engineer, went into teaching. E-learning came in the scene. There was a government requirement, so I was teaching ICT. There was a government requirement that each school in the country should have like an e-learning coordinator. My department head thought it'd be a good idea if I applied for the job in the school. I was the only candidate. So of course I was a bit touch and go at one point, but I got the job, just about squeezed through. And then started from there. Was last look at learning platforms, looked at one from a company, I won't name any names, was actually horrible, and then came across Moodle. And then started from there.
Fantastic. And Merrin?
Actually, it is quite a similar story. I've been in IT since we got the trash 80s, the Tandy computers back in high school, and always worked at the back end with databases. I went to live in Dubai in the Middle East and worked for 3 different schools there. So then sort of more into the education side of IT. Came back to Australia and got a job with the government working on the Joint Australian Tsunami Warning Project. So that was set up after the big tsunamis in Banda Aceh, and got into e-learning that way. And just love it.
Fantastic. And I've actually asked one other person to join us who has been facilitating. That's Teresa. So I'm actually going to ask the same question to Teresa. Just your background, your story into how you got into e-learning.
Well, I was a full-time mum, and my mum worked at the local polytech, and she needed a bit of a hand in the office, so I'd done some office work, went and worked in the office. While I was there, decided that I could do one of these IT programs, so I did a couple of programs, ended up with my degree, and then ended up working in the e-learning centre, and that was in 2004. At the time, we had a government-funded project to find an open source learning management system that would work for institutions and schools, and we came across Moodle. We'd had some other reports come out, evaluated it, used it, and been Moodling ever since, really. Over 10 years now.
Wow. Fantastic. Thanks, Teresa. And can I ask everyone else, if you want to type in the chat, I guess, just background, how you got involved in Moodle, maybe it was through school or through work. Going to type in there. And just briefly how I got involved, how I got here. I think mine is slightly different to everyone. I got in as a programmer. So while I was a teacher in a previous life, it was actually the fact that I was also a developer and worked with Martin on some other IT projects in the late 90s. And when he started up with Moodle as his PhD, and then people started using it, he just needed some help with programming. So he used to work at his house on the early versions of Moodle and really just got involved from there. So it kind of did bring together the two fields I was involved in, being development and as a teacher. So it's quite good. But if anyone else wants to, does anyone else feel like sharing their story about how they, either on the microphone or just typing in the chat?
I'll say it rather than type. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is Rebecca Barrington here. From Devon, UK. I worked in the learning centre when, probably quite similar to Gareth, we had some money to buy VLEs. This is back in just after 2000, I think it's like 2002. And the college I was working in decided to go for LearnWise. And I chose to watch. I said there wasn't enough people to train. They only paid for 5 people. So I said, well, can I just watch from the background? So I watched, really, really interested in the concept. Eventually got my feet into it properly, took over, did a full audit and replaced it to Moodle in 2005, and I've been kind of Moodling ever since.
Oh, fantastic. Which leads me on to my next question. Maybe we'll start with you, Becca. What's your current role on a day-to-day basis? What does it involve, the e-learning side of it?
I've just started a new job actually, just 3 months ago, and so my job is to really develop e-learning and develop it more as a addition to traditional kind of further education, higher education teaching, but particularly also to look at remote learning and distance learning as well. So I come with the Moodle background to try and really push Moodle and develop Moodle much more within that organisation. But I also have responsibility for general e-learning and use of technology, and also learning centres, and I'm currently developing them so that there is some support, because we're a very big organisation, so support needs to be a bit more widespread.
Fantastic. And I saw Sarah, that's awesome. So yeah, it was through a job. I was with the Middle to research. Oh, okay. That's an interesting way into it. And good, how I started, had a company, 40 freelancers doing training, but never together. Oh, great. So it was a solution. All right. And let me ask that same question to you, Merrin. What's your role on a day-to-day basis?
I'm Moodle admin for the Bureau of Meteorology, which if you're in the UK, like a few of you are, that's like your Met service. You can imagine we need to put out training to people in Antarctica, to people in remote regional locations across Australia, to people who are literally on tiny little islands that the helicopter only comes every 6 weeks to. So we needed something that was robust. And Moodle does it for us. So day to day, I'm looking after, we have 4 internal Moodle systems now and 1 external. We have 2 down in Antarctica, and it's kind of busy. It's an awful lot of Moodle service, but it's primarily because of security that we have to really partition who can see what.
And how many people are in your Moodle team, as in that are focused on the e-learning part of it?
There's 32 trainers. Now, our trainers might be a little bit different to yours. Our trainers are also expected to be instructional designers. They're also expected to facilitate, to run their own CPD projects. So they might have 300 forecasters who have to do severe weather training, might be specifically in, say, storms or in flood warnings. Plus, they have to be, they have to have some knowledge of HTML. They're expected to do that as well. So it's not as though we run teams of specialists. Our guys are specialists in everything. And yeah, it's busy. it's especially this time of year because we're gearing up for our severe weather season, which means training has to be, our most important focus at the moment to make sure everybody's right. To forecast these big storms or cyclone season is also about to start for us. From the Moodle database admin side, looking after that many Moodle servers, it has its challenges. We have a back-end system. Because we're government, we're not like a traditional school, so we don't have a student management system as such. We have a corporate management system called SAP, and that gives us some challenges. And luckily, Pukunui has worked with us to integrate our Moodle course completions through to SAP. The next thing probably will be to go through stuff in this iMoot and to see what we're going to be bringing in over the next 6 months. And also getting ready for the 3.0 upgrade.
Fantastic. Doing a lot of stuff. And for those who didn't attend the big iMoot earlier this year, we actually did Michelle, who was based in Antarctica. We got her to do a little presentation of what they're doing down there. So I think we've hit all the continents actually, which has been great.
We have. So we've now got Moodle both at Casey and data stations in Antarctica.
Fantastic. Cool. And Teresa, I know you're still in there. You've probably got a similar story. What's just asking you, what's your role on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I'm in a very small unit. There was 6 of us. Now there are only 5 of us for the University of Waikato in Hamilton, New Zealand. I'm the e-learning systems administrator, so as well as Moodle, I look after other systems, Turnitin, Adobe Connect, Panopto, all sorts of other things. I do all the staff PD around Moodle and another system, and I look after all the documentation, make sure the feeds are running properly. We have a lot of automated feeds from our student management system, which is fantastic. We've got 60-odd thousand users, with 20-odd thousand courses at the moment. So there's times when I'm doing archiving or, making sure that everything's all right. I've lost my developer. So sadly, at the moment, I'm doing 2 roles, and so I'm frantically preparing for a Moodle upgrade, which we do in November every year. So I'm currently doing some Git fetching and Git pushing and Git merging and Git branching. That's as well as my normal job. So a bit stressed at the moment, but generally, Moodle's pretty good at running itself. It's really just when staff, don't know what they don't know, and so supporting them and making sure that the documentation is out there and ready and up to date for them, so that they can help themselves. Yeah.
Great, thanks for that. And that's all. Maureen in the chat had just told her story about how she got involved in it as well. So I'm glad the iMoot helped, Maureen. That was Let me move on to Gareth. Do you want to do just a quick talk about your role? What your day-to-day role, I guess, in e-learning?
Yeah, right, quickly. After 7 years of teaching, that was enough. So I went off and I did a master's in computing for a year. Since then, I've been sort of looking for full-time employment. Haven't quite found anything yet. So now I freelance. So I use the Moodle skills from Collapse Topics and stuff, and picked up and develop other things. And I do freelance work for anybody who sort of asks me to do in course formats and things and stuff.
I like that stuff. Yes.
Plug.
Yeah, that's right. Plug for Gareth services if you need someone to do some freelance developing. And I guess what I do on a day-to-day basis, again, just and it's not really to promote us, but it's just to give a different perspective that this whole ecosystem for Moodle and for e-learning is, so I work with Pukunui, so we provide e-learning services, we host Moodle sites and Mahara sites and a whole lot of things. You know, we provide the support around that and so on, and training. On a day-to-day basis though, apart from business stuff, really I'm just involved in development. So as Merrin said, we've done a lot of work with the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia, and integrating systems together, which is, I guess for me, that just appeals to me personally. It's actually varied enough to keep my interest in things, and I'm a bit of a nerdy person at the end of the day, just like sitting programming. So my day-to-day work's actually, yeah, probably a mix of business stuff and development, which is a lot of fun. Yeah, I think all of us who do a bit of development are really in that Git side of things. I had one final question, and I might lead off on this, which is major frustrations in your role. So what's the frustrations you find with the whole e-learning? And I guess this leads on to almost what is your wish list? And I guess if anyone else, please type away in the chat if it's frustrations that you have in the e-learning world. And so that might be with the way Moodle works, that might also be with working with people, you know, with people that you need to train, people in your organization, just working with the community as well. And so I said I'd lead off on this. This is actually probably one question I didn't really think about. I guess for me, my actual major frustration in working in the e-learning world is just not enough time. There's actually, I find more so than any other area I've ever worked in, there is so many good ideas out there, and these days it's very easy to pull those ideas together. These iMoots have been great. I always leave with a massive list of things, not just ideas on how to use Moodle, but I guess from my perspective, it's I leave with a list of things going, wouldn't it be great to develop that? And I know I have the skills, yeah, Gareth showing his, I know I have the skills to actually implement a lot of it, to actually write these plugins for Moodle. People saying, I wish, for instance, I saw in that last session, Inda was shown, not sure if she's here, but you know, about the grade book, and I'm thinking, gee, there's some good ideas. I could actually do that, but just finding the time to do that. And often if we find a client who's interested in those things, that's fine, because our time gets paid for and we can do it. So that's probably, funnily enough, it's probably my biggest frustration actually, is so many ideas and so little time and resources to implement them. I suspect, Gareth, you're showing a list. You might have similar frustrations, do you? Or yours is probably more along the lines of how it all works, the ecosystem as well. So.
No, it's actually, since I saw the question you posted earlier, I actually think it's inconsistency. I found that the users there's so much technology, and the technology hasn't evolved enough yet to be usable. So there's so many products on the market, and I found at a school that oh no, not another product. Oh, not another product. Everybody thinks that technology is going to solve the problem, when in fact, technology doesn't solve the problem. Management and having a clear, concise, coherent strategy, policy, and knowing what you want, and keeping it simple and straightforward, and not complicating it. And that's the frustrating for me, is all this and all that, and users on the themes forum getting confused of, oh, it's the themes problem. No, it's actually something else, but it's not their fault for not knowing it. It's the fact that the system is too complicated and not intuitive. So it just needs to be simpler, more elegant, less confusion, and the technology needs to move forward.
So when you talk about the system, what are you referring to there?
Just the whole human-computer interaction, not necessarily Moodle, not necessarily one particular product, but understanding what tools in society will be beneficial for helping in education and where to draw the line. And I don't think anything comes there yet, because like the car evolved, we don't understand how to use computing and tools and educational tools exactly in a certain way. They're not that far developed yet. So people do get confused, and they're too technical. So people get turned off by that very quickly.
Sure, in terms of oh, go Teresa.
I was just going to say, sort of following on from the system being too complicated, as well as picking up on Kim's point about, you know, Kim saying that she's she's hosted and she can't have lots of features turned on. She sees things in presentations, and you know, I'm thinking that those are third-party plugins probably. Well, you know, I'm the e-learning systems administrator, so I have to make sure that the system works and is upgraded every time we do an upgrade. I actually don't like my staff going to Moodle Moots. Even I do like it, but I don't like it. I like it because I like them to see what other people are doing, but I don't like it because they see all this stuff that they want, and then they come to me and say, oh, I want. And I have to be the person that says, no, I'm not going to add a third-party plugin for one person. It's so much overhead, and it does take a lot of time to make sure that things are up to date. There's a whole sort of raft of things you have to think about. So, you know, like, will it just be a fly-by-night developer who drops it, and then it's, you know, it's a plugin that worked for 2.5 but hasn't worked since, and then you have to pay somebody to, you know, you start relying on something, and then you have to pay for it to be maintained if you haven't got those skills. So, you know, it's and then, you know, following on from that, as Gareth says, the more things you have, the more complicated it is. So, you know, there's actually, I've seen presentations where you know, administrators are sort of, oh, what was the word? You know, the suggestion was that we actually hide some stuff. You know, find out what our staff don't need and actually hide it so that the list isn't so big. You know, when you go add an activity or resource, look how big that list is now. So, you know, and you have to understand what each of those things does. And if you've got things that aren't getting used, or filters that aren't getting used, or, you know, Moodle is big, and it's big because it's awesome. And it's awesome because it suits a lot of different needs. But to get that, you know, to get that fit for your institution or company's use, you know, you have to really figure out what is needed. So yeah, it's a balancing act, really.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
I'm one of the people, I'm not a developer, and in my old job I was the person who came back from a Moodle Moot or whatever and said, I want this and I want that. And when we moved from 1.9 to 2, we did a great big tranche. We were quite an early adopter of Moodle 2, and a lot of the plugins we were using just simply weren't ready for Moodle 2 when we went to the upgrade. So we had to make quite a big cull at that point. And since then, we had a process of, when we found a new plugin, we didn't say no, but we tested it first, see if it worked. But we would only do it if there was a kind of history of the upgrade. And we decided at that point in time that if it was that important and we were continuing to adopt it that heavily, then that would be something we would have to invest our time and money in to upgrade if someone stopped developing it. And it did help us to start to look at what things we really need and what things we didn't need, and what things are nice to have. You know, admittedly, I have asked for things before that have been nice to have, thought they were going to be great, never used them. And similarly, there have been other things like the checklist, and some of the formats and bits and pieces that just, I don't know how we cope without them now, to be honest. So that they are a point where we would look to develop them. So I think you're kind of right, Teresa, that we are annoying as users, that if we see something fun and nice and we just want to use it. But I think it's also making sure that there's a balance. And I think as a Moodle kind of administrator, I see it as my job making that link between the developers and the curriculum, and actually trying to make those decisions and thinking more logically by it.
Fantastic. And I'll jump in here too, as a slightly different perspective, is that so our company, we host sites. So we face the problem of getting requests from our clients for installing third-party plugins on their site. And so each hosting company does this differently. So I know Kim was mentioning theirs is, I'm pretty sure I know which company it is, but a lot of them have a single code base, and that has some advantages in terms of how they host the systems. It means they can make things quite efficient. The downside is if they put the code in for one plugin, it actually doesn't just apply to your site, it applies to all the client sites as well, or everyone they host running that single code base. So, you know, there's other issues for them to consider. In our case, we actually have separate code bases for each client. However, we face the problem of we have to provide support services, so doing upgrades and so on. So we actually have a list of plugins that we will automatically approve because we know them. Others we will check out. We make assessments based on how easy it is to upgrade. We do security assessments and so on as well. But part of it is also, can we upgrade these plugins? Are they quite well supported so that if we do need to do an upgrade to the latest version of Moodle, is it likely that plugin is going to be upgraded quite quickly as well? So we look at the developers who are in charge of these plugins, how active they are. So it's just a different take on it. That's why. Sometimes it might be hard to to get those plugins in because there is a cost of ownership in terms of doing this, whether that's yourself or in our case where a lot of it's outsourced to us to manage these sites. We've got a cost in terms of supporting it. So we try and do our best for our clients. We try and make sure we do get those plugins in there if they've been requested. We take the requests from administrators. Yeah, so as Teresa said, doing sanity checks on third-party plugins is really important. Yeah, a plugin, just as an example, a plugin may actually, you may install it and it may do what it says it does, but it may also have security holes in it. It may be completely badly written code that is inefficient. So, when you scale it up to several thousand users using the site and that plugin installed there, it may actually crash your system. And there's all sorts of checks you need to do with that. But for us, actually, probably one of the biggest ones, though, is actually how often the developer who's in charge of it, is responding to requests. Do they upgrade it every time there's a new version of Moodle? Do they upgrade their plugin to work as well? Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. I mean, security is not just about opening up holes. It's also looking at the code. The code itself may be badly written where it's actually just passing information out too. If you don't know the developer, there's all sorts of possibilities with it. So, yeah, I won't go into that. Let me lead on, Merrin. Frustrations. Haven't heard from you.
Similar to other guys, probably my biggest frustration would be time or cloning Shane. If I could have 3 more Shanes, I'd be okay. I'd be able to get all the development work I need to get done. That'd be fabulous. One thing which I will say, which I am waiting for Shane on at the moment, which is a frustration because I can see that it's going to be fabulous. If everyone wants to go back and look at the old iMoot recordings from earlier this year, from the full iMoot, Austin Sinclair out of IRD New Zealand, which is their tax area, did a wonderful presentation on templates. And he very kindly shared the code with me, except for they're on 2.4 and we're on 2.9 and it doesn't work in 2.9. So something I'm really looking forward to actually easing the frustration is going to be to get Shane to rewrite this code, and then we're going to really get involved in some great templating to just take the burden off the Moodle admin a bit. I really liked what Austin had working there. Totally take on board with the rest of you about making things look cleaner. We're heavily into an awful lot of code, but all done through the Moodle interface, to make our Moodle pages look like standard web pages for our users, to uncomplicate things. If you go and have a look at websites, Kickstarter, Apple, GetAble, you'll notice all using a very clean sort of line, and we're bringing that through into our e-learning. It's taken on really well by the users, so that's good. From a personal frustration, I've been having a lot of fun recently with Google Cardboard. I'm wanting to get more virtual reality into the e-learning. And Vinny Stocker has actually helped me get some really good headsets out of Asia. But personally, I'm finding that, I don't know if anybody else has come across this, but I'm getting cyber sickness. Seriously, I can only be in these things for about 15 minutes, and I am so ill with motion sickness, which has been really frustrating because I used to watch Star Trek when I was little, and I've always wanted my own personal holodeck. And suddenly the technology's starting to get there, and I can't use it. Has anybody else actually found that? I didn't even know it existed until I Googled it and found out that between 20% of people cannot use virtual reality. Headaches, nausea, the works. So yeah, they're my frustrations, Shane.
Sorry. A wish list holodeck. Yeah.
Oh, Rebecca, if you haven't tried Google Cardboard, just go and grab it. I mean, for $10, you get your own little kit set, and then you can, for about $40 off sites in Asia, you can get really good headsets. And it's, well, for us, we started looking at it for maybe looking at different sorts of cloud types for work, thinking that, okay, if we could see a storm front rolling in, that would be really cool and teach the students. But then we started thinking, well, what about a simulation room where we could actually have emergency services, the whole thing? Yes, Gareth, a Moodle deck would be fabulous. But what would you have on your Moodle deck? I think would be the first question. Over to you, Gareth. Come on, let's see your wish list.
I'll jump in. Just for those who want to try, you can get the app on your phone for free. So, I mean, I've got the little headset thing, but you can actually just have the app, and heaps of YouTube 3D VR clips that you can go around. So they're actually done for, originally someone said it was actually real estate agents. You could do virtual tours. That was the whole thinking behind it, but it's taken on a life of its own, people using it. So, yeah. I was going to say, while I'm here too, just... Yeah.
Probably is one. If you go to share.oculus.com, you'll find just about everything. And if you've had a really frustrating day at work, it is so nice to come home and actually do a walk along a beach.
Actually, I'm actually only 15 minutes walk from a real world beach. So it's lovely. I go out for a cycle ride. So that's, but it's still, you know, 5-10 minutes away, bicycle, boom, camera, landscape photography. It's great. But if you put the site in the chat room, please, that'd be great.
Oh, a real beach. And so. I'll just come back to a point that Merrin made, and again, this is probably a frustration for me as a developer. It's not really a complaint, it's just a frustration. And so Merrin was talking about that plugin, the templates one. So I have started some work on it. It's actually got near the top of my list. But this is one of the frustrations we have as well. So we need to update like third-party plugins, or it might be work we've done, is that if there's been API changes, and these are necessary, that's why it's not really a complaint. I realize they're necessary. So that plugin Merrin was talking about, there was an API change in Moodle that stopped the way it was working from 2.4 to 2.9. And so a lot of the times it's just, you know, one little change in the core Moodle code actually then makes a whole lot of plugins ineffective. Hence why there's a problem with third-party plugins as well. But there's also a good case with the Bureau of Meteorology, where they actually paid for some development work to be done, which all of you would have seen, and I hope Merrin's okay with me sharing this, which was to do with the the availability conditions restricting access. If you're on the later versions of Moodle, you'll see in there there's user restrictions, so that you can restrict access based on a user profile field. And so it was actually the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia that paid for that development, and we did it. But what they were very smart about this, they asked us to see if we could get it put into the core code to share it out with the community, which is a very smart idea because it means that they've got the development work they needed in the code, We've done the work and they paid for it. But yes, it's great for upgrades, because now when a new version of Moodle comes out, because it's part of the core code, the core Moodle team, the headquarters, need to actually make sure that code works in the future. So they're not paying for any updates of their code. So it's a suggestion to everybody: if you are paying for development work, and you think it's something the general community can use, it's a very good idea to share it and actually try and get into that core code. Make the case in the tracker that it's something that Moodle itself needs, because it saves you a lot of headaches later on. Yeah, and maybe, Marcus, that's actually a very good point, and I suspect Gareth might have some something to comment about that as well. Trying to get code into the core code, maybe that process needs to be improved. Don't know, Marcus, if you've got a mic, do you want to jump in and just what are the frustrations? Or Teresa, if anyone wants to, say what do you find hard about getting it in? And obviously, I'm probably a bit closer to the developer, so I probably don't have the same frustrations. Yeah. Or Teresa, do you want to jump in?
Only if I can talk about the anonymous posts tracker item.
Oh.
Anonymous post tracker item 1071. I know there is an earlier tracker item that's of interest, but this was created in February 2004, and there are 113 votes for it. There are patches for several versions. Lots of agreement that it should be a core thing. Then there was discussion about how else it could be done. It's like I just have to say it. It's a Moodle moot. It's a moot. I have to say it. So and it's not, and actually people in HQ actually do know about it and do think it's a good idea, but what they want to do is expand it from forums to other areas as well, which is fine, but the people that are actually commenting on this thing only want it in forums, so can't we just have it? It's just one of those things. I'm not sure if voting will help at this point, because it is one of the most voted for, but have a go. So that's really
Teresa,
frustrating.
do you need a white knight?
Oh, look, to be honest, I know some people at HQ, and they always they do join me in having a giggle when I grizzle about this, because it is my little bugbear, this one. We're upgrading to 2.9, and I'm having to pay for, because the forum had changed, we are having to pay for this to be updated for 2.9, but it's worked really well in other versions. Like, it's only had a few sort of patches over the years. There's been anyway, so it's just a matter of HQ deciding how they want to approach it. The community has spoken, but sometimes the community speaking is only one side of it. HQ, Martin and the team sort of have these other thoughts, and so then it gets a little bit delayed, shall we say.
Teresa, I missed that bit. Were you talking about, what were you talking about getting out into forums?
Allowing anonymous forum posts.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's I put the tracker item in there. I talked to some of the HQ guys at the Aussie Moodle Moot, and I think the thoughts around it, I mean, we're just using the patch, so it works for us, but we do have to have it upgraded for 2.9, which we're going to next Monday. And I'm guessing that there's lots of people who think it is a valid thing to go into core, but I think HQ want to be able to transfer that into other areas. And then the thought about the alternative names was a way of getting around it, but that's not anonymous, because if the teacher knows what your alternative name is, then asking for anonymous discussion isn't anonymous. So yeah,
I think anonymous is difficult simply because people will try to work their way around it. So although I can understand why it's desirable, if you to call something anonymous, inevitably it's like security. Somebody's going to work their way around it and then point and laugh and say, oh, that's not really anonymous.
Yeah, I think, with this one, it's not fully anonymous, because it's just a flag in the database to not display the person's name. It is actually, in the database, we do know who it is. We can change it from anonymous. Our users all know that it is not completely anonymous and that it can be tracked to who has posted it. It's basically, it's just providing the appearance of anonymity, so that if you've got a sensitive topic, something like social workers posting about their work practice, then they can do that without actually having that post associated to their name on the page. But of course, the teachers and the admins can always drill down and see the logs and who was doing stuff, and the students all know that. It's all made pretty clear to them. So yeah, it's not truly anonymous, and I think that is also a hiccup on that whole thing. Yeah.
To go back to the issue of getting stuff in core, I think there's a strong argument for core Moodle to continue to have more and more pluggability. And there will always be things that some people want in core, but HQ and others don't want. And the more pluggable it gets, the easier it is to get code that you want running on the version of Moodle that you run. Do you hear that?
Okay. Yeah.
I agree with that, actually, Marcus. We've in the past we had quite a few hacks to core. And like one instance is the participants page. We had extra columns there so that our staff could see the student ID photo as well as the Moodle avatar, the student ID number. Extra columns that they wanted to see. So, but we've since taken that out of the core hack and actually just created a local report plugin. So now if they want to see all that, they just go to the reports area. So, that moving things to local plugins even is, I think, the best way to go as well.
Yeah.
Hey, so guys, I'm sorry to do this. So I probably need to wrap up this conversation just because we're running out of time. Sorry.
Before we do, Shane, can we just cover over? We have had 3 people. Well, we've had
I was about to do the wrap up. Sorry, I was about to move on to wrap up to get us there. So I'll get into the 24-hour challenge. Is that what we're talking about? Cool. So I thought I'd just wrap up that part of the conversation. That was only meant to be 20 minutes. But thank you for those who got involved there and talked about that. And let me just wrap that part up just by saying, or summarising, this is part of I think one of the best things about doing these conferences, and even the face-to-face conferences or online, is actually getting together and realising we have some common things, that we do, and learning from each other, but also common frustrations as well, and trying to work around those. So let me encourage, if somehow we can keep these conversations going, that would be great. Have frustrations with it, maybe we can hit the forums and so on. It'd be good to keep this going and basically improve the whole process and everything. It'd be awesome. So necessarily, just for time, I need to move on. So I need to talk, just to wrap up the iMoot, and just basically thank everyone who's been involved. So it's hearty little clap for everyone. I do want to thank our sponsors, and I've got that slide up there in the middle. So thank ourselves, Pukunui. So we basically provide the servers and the actual iMoot site, and that's what we'll be organising. So Blindside Networks have been awesome. These guys do all the big blue button. Is basically, so they actually provide the servers for that and link it up, so we don't need to set that up. So they've been sponsoring the iMoot for, I think this is the 4th or 5th year they've been doing it. So thanks to them. And to our other sponsors there, so we've got Academic Tribe, Learning Effects, and iSpring. So just want to thank them for getting involved, and basically, you know, they either provide services or money into this to make it all happen. So please do visit them. Love it. You know, visit their sites to see what services they do. I want to thank all our presenters. So for all of you who did present, thanks, Marcus. Just thanks for your time. Thanks for, you know, putting effort in. It's not an easy thing to actually present, and doing it online is different to doing it face to face. And I do realise it takes time to get these things ready and follow up. Oh, Marcus, if you need to play some background music, go for it. I do want to thank our two invited speakers. That was Gina Elliott and Rebecca Barrington. So both of you actually managed to catch both your presentations this year, so loved it. They were great presentations, and I know you both keynoted for us before in the past, and I think the team were actually impressed by what you did in the past as well. That's why we were keen to get you back. So thank you very much. I also want to thank very quickly the iMoot team. So especially I want to thank Wendy, Gareth, and Vinny. Gareth's the only one here now, but these three have really put a lot of effort into. They've been meeting every week, well, more than once a week. They've just been getting together online, and they've been doing a lot of work getting these sites ready and so on. So, you know, putting together the schedules, and there's been 101 frustrations in getting this together. So I expect Wendy and Vinny are both sleeping. Wendy's here in Hong Kong, Vinny's in KL, so it's coming up to 5 in the morning here, so it's unlikely either of those are going to wake up. But they've both done a fantastic job. And also just the whole iMoot team, so facilitating and discussions. So that was Stefan, Rinky, Teresa, Merrin, Lindy's been involved in there as well. Just want to thank you all for your time getting involved and helping out wherever you can, facilitating as well. So I really do appreciate it, guys. I haven't done any slides for this, but I thought I would just by the numbers, this mini iMoot, and if you want to check in the chat, just your thoughts on this mini iMoot. Usually we do like 100 hours over 4 days, but this one we thought we'd do a single stream in just 24 hours. So if you have some thoughts on that, whether you like this kind of format, because we're thinking about doing this a bit more regularly. We'll see how it goes. If you check that in the chat, but we had 101 participants that were in there, so that included 22 presenters. So I think Wendy's goal was to get to 80. That was her set goal, so she was very happy that we got over that. So, yeah, so she's aiming for 80 participants, so we got over to 101. Let me also say to the people who presented, even if there's only 2 or 3 people in your presentation, the recordings get watched a lot. So I was talking to Fred Dixon about this, and he was even looking at a presentation he'd done, I think 2 years ago or something like that, and it was already up to 4,000 views on YouTube. It's probably not big by YouTube standards, but it's big for presentations like this. So while you might have only presented to 2 or 3 people in your room, just realize is basically you're presenting to potentially thousands of people. So these videos do get quite a lot of replays. I don't know, Marcus, actually, to answer that question. Vinny there is actually a way. We've done the stats before. It's not easy, but we run SQL queries on our site. But once they get to YouTube, it's obviously easier because you can see how many people have played them. Yeah, so I'll test that up with Vinny, actually. We were talking about putting those sets up regularly on the iMoot sites. And finally, just want to say our 24-hour challenge. So we had a challenge that ran. Thank you to Gareth for setting that up and for Wendy for setting up questions and that. So the challenge was, in case you didn't know, in the participants lounge, there was a question per hour. It's only available one per hour. So you had to be online basically to answer that. And we had 3 people who actually managed to do this, and I believe they're still in the room. Maybe not. Oh yes, so we've got Sarah, who's still, all 3 are here. Sarah, Ashley, Jeff White, and Kim. All 3 of you actually managed to do the 24-hour challenge. So these guys have been up for 24 hours straight, or at least have been up once every hour on the 24 hours to answer the question. So congratulations, guys. And so Gareth and I were talking before this. We thought you actually need more than a badge and more than us recognizing it. So what we would like to do is give you guys a free registration for the full iMoot when we plan that. So I've got your details from the site. So I'll probably Wendy will contact you about that, how to follow it up. So yeah, we'll give you a free registration to the big iMoot. So thank you, guys. And that's really it from me. I don't know if Gareth, Merrin, Teresa, you guys have been on the committee. Do you want to say anything just to wrap this up?
I think a big thank you to Shane for pulling this all together. Well, without Pukunui, we wouldn't have been able to do it, or as easily without all of our sponsors. It takes everybody, but especially Shane and Wendy. It's brilliant.
Here, I agree.
I did very little this year, actually, so yeah, it really was a Wendy, Gareth, Vinny show.
Well, I wasn't going to mention it, Shane, but now you kind of say it, Anyway, yeah, I just also just like to say thank you. Absolutely, I think what makes it great is that everybody has their part to play and everybody has something to add, and that's what makes it brilliant. So the sponsors, everybody who makes this happen makes iMoot brilliant. And so yeah, I think everybody deserves something. It's great. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. All right, guys, I'll say, yeah, thanks once again. Might stop the recording on this one, and I hope it's been great. Keep the conversations going in the forums, and stay, yeah, keep your ear out for any more announcements. Maybe Gareth, we might set up, if you want to write a forum post, just get people saying what they did liked about this iMoot and what they didn't, because it'd be good to get some feedback from everyone as well. And I know there's a lot of people who aren't here, so maybe we'll shoot out a forum post just getting people's opinions on it. Yeah, see if we need to do more of these mini iMoots in the future. So, but thank you everyone, and I hope it's been good. Yeah, thanks Rebecca. Thanks Donna. I didn't get to talk to you, Donna, but thanks for joining. I think we bump into each other quite regularly, don't we, on these online meets. Yeah, back to sleep, everyone. Well, at least for us, it's early morning here, so I'm going to hit sleep. All right, let's kill this recording.